This is Trinisha Cottrell. Thank you for coming. Welcome back to the channel. And for those of you that are new, welcome to First Love Yourself, where Christ, love, and life combine. So, but before we get into today's topic, today's message, go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe, get ready to add some comments, add some things to other people because although you may know something, whatever you're saying may help somebody else. That's one thing that I learned through this journey. So, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about, can you really do things alone? I know you're probably thinking, okay, where are you going with this? You always have like these little cute sayings or things that you like to say. But let me say something, right? Sometimes we have in our mind, like, oh, yeah, I could do it by myself. I could do bad all by myself. I'm good by myself. I don't need nobody, right? You just start to really hype yourself up on things that are not of God. I have two scriptures that corroborate my claim, right? The first one is that it's not good for man to be alone. Okay, let that go ahead and sink into your system. The second one is man cannot live, should not live by bread alone. If we were meant to only do things by ourselves with no one else, I really truly feel like God wouldn't place people or positions or opportunities into our lives to help other people. I feel like if God really intended for us to just be by ourselves, there wouldn't be helpmates. There wouldn't be all of these things that we need in order to be successful in life. We wouldn't need to learn or read a book because we would have all the knowledge there is right there. We wouldn't need anything, anyone. We would just need ourselves. And I truly believe that that's not God's intention. That what God intended for us is for us to lean on Him and on each other, for us to need Him, but have other people there in a place, in a position to help prepare us into purpose. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to be part of a challenge where we are going to do another 30 days. I know you're thinking, oh, we're going to do 30 days again. Okay. And I'm going to be right here. I will put out something for the times and everything else, but this is day 1 of 30. So, this is another 30-day challenge that I've decided to be a part of with the group that I'm in. And I think that it will be really, really beneficial for other people to learn from my life lessons, to learn different things from me, to learn from things that have happened in the past that I think will really, really be able to help the people. And so I was just going to go over today the things that I've learned in church. And of course, tell my own stories that may be able to help someone else because you might be able to relate to the things that I've been through. And so one of the things that the pastor said today, he was reading from Acts chapter 13, verses 1 through 3. And as he read, he said that Satan and self are our own enemy. When we start to get selfish, when we start to think of only the things that we want and not anyone else, when we start to believe the lies of the enemy, when we start to think that, oh yeah, I'm only good enough as this, the only thing that makes me good enough is that, when we really start to feel like, oh, the only way I can be successful is if I do, it's all up to me. I'm the only person that can make this happen. Yes, you do need to believe in yourself. Yes, you have to be intentional. Yes, you do have to put forth effort. But know that God is going to send a person who opens the door that you walk through. Know that every blessing that you get in your life is going to be attached to another human being. That the things in life that God is going to teach you is going to come from another person. When you go to sign a house, you don't just fill out the paperwork and everything by yourself. There's a whole team of people that are put together to be able to get you to the house that you're signing a paper for. You don't just walk through the front door with the key. Someone makes a key to that house. It's not something that there's nothing in this life that any person does by themselves. Everything that I am, everything that I do is because of God, and because God has placed a person in my life who has helped me along the way. So the pastor talked about a few things. He talked about 3 things that will help us resist the devil and go to God first, is what he put. But also, let me go ahead and think of something better to say here. Here are 3 things that are going to help you not be selfish, that are going to help you just stay focused on God's promises, stay focused on His word, stay focused on the things that it is that you should be doing while you're going through this life. The things that will give you a good foundation, like the Word of God. The things that will allow you to grow a closer relationship with Him, so that you can learn how to use discernment. You can learn to listen. You can learn to be obeying God. So the first thing the pastor talked about was listening to the Spirit. One of the examples he gave was when people say, God told me this and God told me that. You hear a lot of people who say they're prophets or whatever else. And I'm not getting on prophets or anything like that. I'm just saying that his main point was to make sure that you're actually hearing from God. And when you're hearing from God, sometimes it's just your word. It's not everybody else's word. Sometimes God will give you a word or he'll tell you something. And this is not just specific to me. God will speak to anybody if you have that relationship with him. You just have to seek him and he will show you. It's not always going to be in church. Sometimes it might be in a grocery store. Sometimes it might be while you're driving in the car and you hear something on the radio. I don't know what it will be, right? For you. But every person can grow that relationship with God on their own. It's not going to look like my relationship with God. It's not going to look like anybody else's relationship with God but yours. But when you seek God for an answer and you're asking him, know that it will come in due time, that God will answer your question. Some people will say, well, God didn't tell me why this happened. I'm going to have to say this, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody or step on anybody's toes. But sometimes when you ask God the answer to a question, and it's something personal, something that you can't understand why this happened to you. You don't know why this happened in your life. You don't know why, it could be a loved one. It could be anything, right? You may have lost your job. You may have lost a house, whatever it is. And you're like, God, why did this happen? And God might not be answering your question. And one of the pastors I listened to a sermon in a sermon in the past said that sometimes God won't answer a question like that because no answer will be good enough. And I truly believe that, because sometimes you want a specific answer and you feel like it's going to make you feel better about the fact that you lost someone that you love or whatever your situation is. But that answer, no answer would ever be good enough for you. Sometimes things happen because it was God's will and because it was their time. They were someone who were a good spirit that touched a lot of people's lives, that changed people's lives. And you never know the type of effect that you have on a person until you're gone most of the time. But don't ever feel guilty or bad because you lost something, because there's so many people that have lost things. The main thing for you to remember is that although you've lost something, you still have the memories of that person. You still remember the spirit of that person. You will still see that person again someday. Know that although you don't understand, that truly sit in a moment and ask yourself, is there any answer that will give you peace? If the answer is no, that's why your that's why your question has not been answered. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and a lot of people like to skim over it, or they like to come up with their own reasons why. But I don't have an answer for you. What I have is that if no answer is going to give you peace, that's why your question was not answered. Know that you have those memories. Know that you have that time that you got to spend with that person. That being around a spirit like that, someone who really truly does give you joy in your life, someone who really has added something to you, is such a blessing. Know that every moment that we have, there's not a minute, a time, a day that is guaranteed to any of us. And just appreciate every single moment that you have with everybody that is around you. And know that every day is a blessing. Every person that God allows to be a part of your life, and every person, place, or thing that God removed from your life is a blessing, because some people can't go with you. Some things are not intended to go to the next season with you, because there's so much more that God has to offer you. And it's not that person is a bad person or a good person. It just means that they're not graced for you in that season. Sometimes that's the hardest thing for me to swallow, is when I can't see any reason why someone can't go with me, but I want to bring them along. I'm like, but they're a good person. And God's like, I didn't ask you if they're a good person. I asked you to be obedient. And sometimes we feel like our obedience doesn't make sense, but eventually it does for me. Eventually I get my answers. Eventually I go through life and I'm like, oh, it makes sense, because that would have made that person feel badly if they would have been with me in this place and God has taken them there, but not yet. Why would God want to rub something like that in this person's face when they're praying for it so desperately, like children, like whatever else it is? And so sometimes God will tell us to remove a person or to let them stay in the past because he's protecting them as well as us. And we don't understand that until later. The next thing that the pastor talked about is discerning the spirit. When we pray to God for something, when we're asking for things in our life, or we are going through life and we're getting to these different things, these different opportunities, and we'll ask God a question: is this God the right guy? Is this job the right opportunity? Is this place where I should be staying? And if you don't have discernment, you could end up making the wrong decision. You could end up saying, well, this person's nice, I'm going to keep them in my life. You could end up saying this job pays a lot of money, I'm going to go ahead and accept the opportunity. But that opportunity might not be for you. You have to be able to pray to God and accept his answer. Sometimes for me, when it's something that I don't want to hear, I'm like, well, maybe God really didn't say that. Am I the only person that has ever done that? I know there's more than one person that's done that in their life. And it's because it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you have your mind set on this, you really like this guy, or you have your mind set on, well, this money, if I have this money, I can do all of these things. But let me tell you something about money. The love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. If I'm wealthy, if God has me wealthy and I got stacks on racks on packs of money, then I'm going to accept it and use it to glorify the kingdom. But also, just because I'm making money in one position doesn't mean that's the position for me. I may need to stay where I'm at because that place may be graced for this season of my life. I might learn how to be a better steward in this job. I may learn or meet people who will teach me how to set the right standards and boundaries for my life. God may be in that season showing me something about myself that I didn't even know until this moment. So when you are discerning, know that the answer God gives you is not going to be what you want it to be. It's going to be what's best for you, because God is really looking out for your best interest. He wants you to be abundant. God is the God of abundance. So why wouldn't he want you to live as so? God is intending for you to have the life that you always dreamed of, but not at the cost of your sanity, not at the cost of vanity, not at the cost of idolization. God wants you to have those things, but also putting him first and just having those things as a bonus. That is just a blessing, not a curse. If God was to give me a man that was nice, that wasn't grace for me, that would be a curse, not a blessing. That wouldn't be anything that was adding to my life. That would take away from me. That would take away from me being in my purpose. It wouldn't allow me to be at my full potential. If God gave me a job, but it stressed me out and I couldn't help anybody, it would not be glorifying the kingdom. So you have to know when to discern whether something is God and whether it's just good. The third thing is obeying the spirit. This is the toughest thing for me sometimes. I know some people probably can't believe that because you see me talk about God all the time. And for the most part, I am pretty obedient. But every once in a while, there will be something that enters in my life. I'm not going to say God sent it, but there will be something that is entered into my life and I really want it. It could be food, it could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I gotta have 20 biscuits. And God's like, okay, you can have one biscuit, but if you can't eat just one biscuit, then you don't need to have biscuits in your life. And I might be like, oh, but it's so good. It's delicious. It tastes so, so good. Why do I have to get rid of this thing? And God's like, it might be good to you, but it's not good for you. Not everything that is good to you is good for you. Not everything that is temporarily satisfactory. Not everything that gives you a moment of satisfaction. Not everything that glistens or that looks pretty is something that is God. Some of the roughest things that I have to go through in my life are the things that make me better. They're the things that make me more profound. They're the things that actually strengthen and sharpen skills in certain areas of my life. Things that make me more eloquent. Things that allow me to be more knowledgeable in different areas of my life are things that seemed like the storm was never going to end. It was the thing that seemed like it was the hardest to make it through. It's the things that felt like they weren't. Like it was like, God, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this. Like my prayer life increased because of the thing that I was going through. My skin was glowing because I got rid of the stresses in my life, because I decided to be obedient and not just go for the next best thing. In the past, when I had an option between different things and something looked good but it wasn't the best, God's like, I got better. And in my mind, I couldn't imagine anything better than this guy, this job, this opportunity, this thing. But then I have to remind myself that God is the God of abundance, and he would never have his seed begging for bread. He would always want us to live an abundant life. And abundance is not just what's shiniest. It's not what's the newest. It's not what looks appeasing most of the time. It's the thing that takes real work, because faith without works is dead. It's the thing that takes determination. It takes focus. It takes obedience. And not everybody's willing to do it, but it's something that's necessary in order to be successful in your life. So, again, I don't like to keep these videos too long because I just want to give you the gist. I want to give you the good, like the brunt of everything, the whole meal. I'm trying to give you the whole 5-course meal, not breadcrumb you. So I'm trying to make you sure that you get all of it. So again, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and continue to follow me on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment, so that we can grow together, so we can be successful and like dominate this life. Like, we don't have to be so divided to accomplish things in life. We are so much stronger together. If we really lean on each other, if we really take what we learn from other people instead of having to go through our missteps on our own, we could be so much better in this life. We could have all of the things that God had grace for us. I don't want anything if God's not in it. And sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes I could say that and someone will come along and it'll be like, oh my gosh, and then I have to be real with myself and say, is this God? I have to say, is this really God's best for me? And even when I can't imagine it, even when I can't see it, I have to remember that faith is the hope of things that are unseen, that I'm not always going to have an example of what my destiny looks like, but I always have to have faith. Even if it's the size of a mustard seed, it's enough for God to use to get me to where he's taking me. So thank you so much for watching and being a part of today's video. Again, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Keep this conversation going in the comments so that we can continue to help each other, because there's no better way to add, to serve, to be intentional in life than to know that, one, you're not going through it alone, and two, to talk about the things that you learn to help somebody else. So have a good, amazing, wonderful Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow.